Ashley Moody.
Thank you, and thank you for being here today to show support for the folks that wear a badge every day, and their jobs have been so much harder over the last 4 years. Many of you may remember when President Biden took office, within the first few months, the first case that I brought against this administration as it relates to immigration was when the administration came in and overturned tradition of Democratic and Republican administrations and said, even if you are committing very serious felonies and you are here illegally, we're not going to deport you. In fact, we're going to go a step further. We're going to start canceling the detainers that these folks put on the folks that were arrested and brought into our state facilities. We're going to cancel the detainers, and we're going to make you start releasing these people back into your communities. These people were on my horn as fast as you can imagine, saying we're releasing dangerous people into the communities that have committed crimes against our citizens, serious felonies, because the federal government, going against how we've always handled it, is now telling us to release them back into the communities. And so you better believe I sued. And I was proud to do it. A litany of cases followed as it related to immigration, and I'm proud to say, with the encouragement and leadership of this governor, we were leading on this issue, fighting on this issue in courts, winning on this issue in courts. But it was not enough to contain the actions of this president, who time after time, when we would win in court, would slightly change the policy, even changing the name of a policy, thinking that would let them get around the law to bring more and more people into the United States. They would use terms that they said were legal immigration when it was illegal. And of course, the surge and the encouraged surge into our country promoted more and more illegal immigration. And you can use whatever number you want. I've heard 11 million to 20 million over the last 4 years. Let's take the 11 million number. 11 million people pouring into our country in the last 4 years. If that was a state, that would be a larger population than 42 of our states. Think about that. Think about what that does to your laws. Think about what that does to your law enforcement that have taken an oath to protect and serve. Think about that, what does to your financial ability to sustain a state that is larger than 42 of your existing states. That's just people. The amount of fentanyl that flooded into our country killed 500,000 Americans just in the last 4 years. The number one killer of working age Americans, fighting age Americans, is fentanyl. And how do I know that this lethal substance is purposefully being pushed into our country? Because China uses it as a bargaining tactic, and this administration let them do it. We have to start running now, right now, today. Start planning, start getting ready, get these folks ready to hit the ground running, to take the baton when it comes in fast from this administration, and get these folks that have been pushed into our country out. I have personally spoken with folks in the last few weeks who had their home invaded when they were home by folks with crowbars. They didn't care that they were there, here illegally. Just Saturday, someone that had crossed with no detection by law enforcement 2 years ago just raped, sexually assaulted, and kidnapped a 13-year-old girl here in Florida. These just happened in the last few weeks. I could list these on and on and on. When we tried to bring suit, we were frustrated by the courts because they said the federal government has this authority. They can do what they want. Can I tell you, as the state's top cop, I say that humbly, guys, you can't imagine how angry I was. Because they say, the courts say on one hand, the federal government has all the authority, and when they drop the ball and don't do their jobs, they tie our hands from doing our jobs, and when we try to push back in court, they say we can't do that. That is incredibly dangerous. It's tying our hands and our feet and pushing us into the water. There's no chance of survival. For the sake of Floridians, for the sake of Americans, we've got to get started right now. These guys have to have the resources and the law to go out and do their jobs and start detaining legally folks that are committing crimes against our citizens and pushing them out. And they have to have the ability to do it in the state. The law gives us the ability to help the federal government in all of these matters. I can tell you on day one, there's a lot of reason a lot of Florida talent and specialists and expertise are getting sucked up into Washington because we have been identifying the problems and solving the problems, trying to push back on what they were doing since day one. And it's not just folks going up into cabinet or into other offices, it's staff. I'm losing great people because they are experts on this issue. And I can tell you there are things that we can start doing on Inauguration Day to make this state safer. I am so proud of the leadership of this state. We have led throughout this crisis, and we will lead in fixing it. So I am so grateful, let me just say, for the leadership that acts boldly, tells you like it is when there is a problem, tells you how we're going to fix it, and most importantly, as the wife of a law enforcement officer, let these folks do the job they swore an oath to do, to keep you safe, to stand on that line between good and evil, between chaos and order. Allow them to enforce the laws that you, the people, have said want to rule in Florida. So thank you so much, Governor DeSantis, and everybody standing up behind you, which is probably the most important.